Thank you for joining. As he mentioned, I'm going to be talking about how you can use some Novell products to get work done without actually teleporting to the office. So I'm sure this has happened to all of you at one point or another. You're either on vacation somewhere, or maybe stuck in a hotel room, or maybe you've gone home for the day already, and you get a call, or you have a little panic attack, realizing that something important that somebody wants you to do, or that you've forgotten to do back at the office. That obviously is a bit of a challenge because you're no longer in the office, and getting back to the office could be costly, it could be time-consuming, or it could just simply not be an option given the location that you're currently in. So, what do you do? I'm sure everyone has wished that they had a teleporter like they have on Star Trek at one point or another. Maybe not necessarily to get to work, maybe it's to get to your favorite vacation spot, or get away from some function with the in-laws or something like that. But we're here to talk about specifically work and how you can get your work done without needing this high-tech technology that doesn't actually exist yet. So some people preempt this call or this panic attack by taking their work with them. This is some industrial designer's idea of mobile office, being able to prepare and take that work with you. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of resources, and specifically all of your files and all of those printers, along with their custom forms and special paper types and everything else that are back at the office, that are simply impossible to bring with you in a physical sense. With Novell Filr and Novell iPrint, we give you the office, or access to the office, in the palm of your hand from your smartphone, your tablet, etc. So let's start off with, how do you get access to files that are sitting in your data center from your mobile device, from your handheld device? The solution is Novell Filr. It is a physical a virtual appliance, or a soft appliance, that runs on a hypervisor of your choice. So VMware, Hyper-V, or Zen. You would simply download this software appliance and import it into your hypervisor, and then configure access to all of the existing storage that you might have inside your environment. We don't really care if it's, we would prefer that it was our back end in terms of NetWare or Open Enterprise Server, hopefully Open Enterprise Server. But this works equally well in a Microsoft environment, whether you have Windows servers or simply NAS devices. Through that virtual appliance, you can then access all of those files back in your data center without needing to upload them to the cloud, create duplicate copies, or do anything fancy like that. It gives you native access to all of those files. Additionally, we integrate with your existing directory store, eDirectory, again, our preferred choice, but Active Directory as well. And as a result of that, we leverage all of the access controls and everything that you have in place, things that you've put in place for probably decades in terms of building up your file infrastructure and the provisions and the security provisions around that. Through Novell Filr, not only can you access your files in terms of opening them, modifying, saving them, deleting them, and all those kinds of things, but you can also share them with other people. So when you share those files, your internal users as well as external users can use things like the browser or even a mobile app to get access to those same files. One of the other features that Filr gives you is email notifications. When you have an important file that you want to track the status of, to see if your colleagues have submitted the feedback like you've asked them to, what do you think of my presentation, or something like that. Or maybe you're sharing something with a customer and you're waiting for them to, sign that contract and deliver the electronic PDF back to you. Whatever the case may be, through a very simple subscribe option, you will get an email notifying you that a file's been updated, modified, deleted, etc. In the purest sense of mobile devices, we support iOS, so iPhones and iPads, Android phones and tablets, BlackBerry 10 devices, as well. Windows Phone is just around the corner with the new version of Filr that is coming out this fall. So this is the mobile experience from specifically an iPad. And like I said, you get access to everything that you would have access to back at the office. So what you see here in my files, that is really your home directory. So that's your F drive, your H drive, whatever the case may be. Those are your personal files. And when you click on that tab, you'll see the full list. These are simply recently used files, so it's a quick way to get back to those without needing to navigate to that directory. You just click on that and it will take you there automatically. The Net Folders tab, these are all of your map drives that you have access to while you're sitting in the office, or your shares if you're a Microsoft customer. So using this tab, you will have access to all the same map files, map drives, and those files that exist on that server. Again, we're not copying them. We are, in fact, providing or facilitating a connection between, in this case, the iPad and that back-end server. There is also shared with me. So I mentioned before that we have this sharing capability that is built into Filr. If the administrator allows it, you can in fact share files with internal people as well as external people. When you do that sharing, you're doing so because that other person does not have actual rights to that file system. So what we will do is we will proxy those rights on behalf of that user, and that's why those files that have been shared with you show up here. They don't show up in your home directory. They don't show up in the Net Folders or your map drives or network shares because you don't actually have access to. So when you go here and click on that tab, again, those are files and folders that you don't have access to, and those are proxied. The rights to those are proxied to you. We also have some other capabilities. Just to go through this, I will show you this app in live in just a minute, but you do have a What's New. So that's an activity stream showing you all the files that have been updated recently, so you can quickly see, again, if you're not subscribing to notifications, you can quickly see how people are accessing and using those files. You can see what files you shared with other people, both internally and externally. On the mobile app, we also give you the ability to download those files and keep them with you. If you are planning to get onto a plane or be out of cell phone range or something like that and not have connectivity, you can actually download those files and keep them on your device. You can make changes, and then once you're back into a cell phone coverage range or Wi-Fi or whatever the case may be, those changes will synchronize back up to the server so that you can continue working even when you're disconnected. And then lastly, one of the additional capabilities that Filr provides overlaid on top of the existing files that you have is the ability to search for files, search for not only metadata, but also full text search all of that content if you check the box and enable that feature. So moving on, this happens to be the web interface for Filr. And you can see the same themes here in terms of, your My Files, shared with me, shared by me, and Net Folders, as well as things like search. And these little buttons over here are the activity stream as well as your profile. So right now, I don't actually have to drill down. It opens by default to the My Files. And these files, like I said, are coming directly from your home directory. You can see a couple of other things here, such as the number 4, and that indicates there's comments associated to this file. So even though you're working off a mobile device, a browser, etc., and you're looking at specifically your files, you can still collaborate with your teammates around these files by commenting and using that feature. Hey, I like paragraph number 2, or I think you should change slide number 4. Whatever the case may be, you can leave those comments for people that you're collaborating with, and there's no need to email those files back and forth, clogging up your email system, and so on. The next one is Filr also provides, if you recall from the toaster diagram a couple of slides ago, a desktop app. So we have apps for Windows as well as Mac OS X, and that gives you an offline capability on those devices as well. Again, your mobile, you're not in the office, but maybe the device that you have with you is your laptop, and you still need access to the printers and the files, and would prefer, not to have to VPN in or something like that. So with the desktop app, what Filr does is it will actually synchronize whatever folders and options you select to your local device. So it installs itself. This happens to be a Windows 7 screenshot, so it installs itself into the favorites as well as into the library. And those are really shortcuts down to the Filr, My Files, Net Folders, and Shared With Me directory. And as you drill down, you will see that you actually have, in this case, you do have a copy of those files with you on that device that has, typically larger amount of storage than something like your mobile phone would have. You can now work offline on those files, making changes, making updates, and similar to some other technology that we have called iFolder, it will synchronize those changes back up to the server and keep them in sync so that you can work in a semi-disconnected state, from your office network. So let's talk about printing. That was the other big thing that is hard to carry with you when you're on vacation or working from home or sitting in a hotel room somewhere. Come on. My slide's not advancing. All right. So if we back up, just like Filr, iPrint is a virtual appliance, a soft appliance that you can deploy inside of your data center on a VMware Hyper-V or Xen hypervisor. And just like Filr, iPrint connects to all of your existing printers in this case, not files, but it connects to all of your existing printers. And it enables not only your traditional desktops, workstations, and so on, but also mobile devices to print to those printers from no matter where they are. And again, we're leveraging a lot of the same technology that we have in Filr. We connect to your eDirectory or Active Directory and provide secure, or the ability to secure those printers. If there's a printer in, the CEO's office or something like that, you don't want everybody, in the building to print to that printer either intentionally or by accident. So you actually have the ability to secure the printers and restrict the amount of people, or not the amount of people, but the people in particular who can, in fact, use those printers. For devices for which there is no mobile app, or if you are remote, or whatever the limitation may be, we also support email printing. So you can simply email a document to iPrint, and it will deliver that document to the printer. The iPrint appliance does support rendering, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. So, if you are emailing a document, we will automatically convert that document into something that the printer can understand and print that out for you. For the mobile apps, just like Filr, we also support iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and the Windows Phone is available for iPrint already. We just released update to iPrint about 3 weeks ago, and that update did include the Windows Phone. This is what it looks like again on an iPad. In this case, we happen to be in Adobe Acrobat, and the reason we're showing this is because it illustrates kind of the three primary means in which you would actually print. And if we expand that a little bit more, the first one is email. Again, you can simply email a document to iPrint. When you enable that feature, you can have simply one email address for iPrint if you want to, or you can have each printer have its own email address. That's completely up to you, or you can have a mixture of that. If you are using something other than the email address per printer, in terms of a shared email address for multiple printers, in the subject line you will need to specify the printer that you want that document to print to. When you select Open in iOS, again on Android, that feature is called Share With. What you're doing is passing that document to another application, and in this case, Novell iPrint. We also do support AirPrint for iOS-based devices, and when you select Print, it will simply look for printers that are in range on that same wireless network. That's kind of how the AirPrint feature works, unless you're doing some fancy setup with your DNS, but it will look for those printers and simply print. You do have less options that way in terms of color, black and white, paper size, and so on, but it is a much simpler way to print at the same time. Now, in iPrint 1.1 that we just released a couple weeks ago, one of the other new features is the ability to attach QR codes to your printer, which somebody can then just walk up to and scan into the mobile app and automatically print to that particular printer. So the new app has a scan button. They simply walk up to the printer, scan the QR code, and they're automatically configured to print to that particular printer. So if you have a lot of printers inside of your environment and some roaming users or guests or something like that, they can very easily just scan the QR code and print to that printer. Now, iPrint does have its roots in the desktop space. We've been doing this for over 15 years for the desktop, and this is actually one of the capabilities that the desktop has in terms of making it easy to print. You can create these things called printer maps, and what you do is you take an image of your floor plan and then just drag and drop wherever your printers are located. And if somebody is visiting, in this case, this happens to be our internal setup. If you're in building H in Provo and you're on the 8th floor, you're using this office down here, that's your closest printer. All you need to do is click on that printer and your workstation is automatically configured to print to that printer, as well as all the other options like paper size, paper types, and so on. And if that printer driver happens to update during the time that you're there, or if you come back 6 months later, the next time you go to access it, your workstation is automatically updated with the latest printer driver options. And this feature is available for Windows, Mac, as well as Linux desktops. All right, so let's get out of this for a minute. So I'm going to provide a little bit of context here before we go too far. If you can imagine, I'm wearing kind of multiple hats. To start with, let's say I'm in the office, and just to show you that experience. So this user has, a home directory here, and I'm Amanda Cox. These are all the files in the home directory. Amanda also has access to several shares. There's the sales data. There's some online courses that she has access to, as well as just a public share on the network, and so on. So since we're here, and I'm going to minimize the jumping back and forth and so on, let's take off the, I'm at the office hat and put on our vacation hat, or I'm at home, or whatever the case may be. I do have down here in the corner is the Filr app that is running on my workstation, and what it's doing is it's synchronizing certain folders to my local workstation. So again, as you saw a screenshot, I have Filr in my favorites as well as in my my library, and my files. This is my home directory, again, just to toggle back and forth, these are the same files and they're being synchronized to my local workstation, just as net folders. And I have the option to download as much or as little as I want. So I'm not gonna download the whole public share, just the sales data and maybe some courses so that I can catch up in whatever course material may be in there. And then likewise, if we just go back one, come on, shared with me, and those are the files that have been shared with me. So let's switch over to the browser and just to show you that view. So again, my files, there's my home directory and I'm accessing it, directly on the server. Here are my net folders. Come on. Here are my net folders that I have access to. Again, my sales data, my course data, as well as my HQ public share. And then these are files that other people within the organization have shared with me. So using a browser or using my laptop, I have access to all my data. I know, again, I'm wearing kind of two hats. I'm directly connected right at the moment, but I could disconnect my map drives and still have access to all of these files. So let me switch over to there we go. Just to show you the full mobile experience, over here we have the Filr app. Seems that WebEx is putting a pretty big load on my system or something. A little bit slow. Come on. I apologize for this. Just try to restart that. And of course, all right. Let's try this one more time. Sorry about this, folks. All right. Now it's not going to behave. All right. I apologize. Like I said, I did have this working before, but WebEx seems to have slowed down my system. So just back to here. Where's my... So again, you would browse through here, click on My Files, and your entire home directory would come up. It is, in fact, pulling just the metadata to your mobile device at that point in time. It is not actually downloading, all of those files to your home directory. Until you go to click on one of those files, at that point in time, it will go beyond the metadata, which is just the file name, file date, author, file size, and so on that is stored in the database, go to the file system, retrieve the file, and deliver it to your to the local app. You then have the ability to preview it. By default, we will use the inherent iOS preview capability or Android preview capability. And then if for some reason the app, whatever file type it may be, is not capable of being displayed by iOS or Android, typically Office files or PDF files or something like that, what Filr will do is actually give you a link, and we will generate a preview for you on the server and still allow you to view the contents of that file, even though your local device is not capable of rendering it, and you may not have an application that is actually capable of viewing that file. So no matter what type of data it is, you still have access to it. You can still view it, and at the very least comment on it when you're collaborating with your colleagues, and then they can take some action, whatever may be necessary. So again, if we move ahead to here, when you select Open In, it will take that document. You can do this Open In directly from within Filr. It will take that document and pass it into the iPrint app. The iPrint app, it does not actually, unfortunately, on the mobile device, we don't display the map of all of the printer, but we do display the list of all of the printers, and you can designate certain printers as favorites to kind of reduce that list. So by default, it will show you just the favorites, and then you can click on the icon to broaden the list and show you all the printers. And then, like I said before, you have some additional capabilities once you are using that app to also select paper size, paper tray, number of pages, all those kinds of things, and print those documents. Let's go. So I apologize for my remote viewing, my reflection app. It's supposed to be able to broadcast my iPad to my screen, but like I said, this is cooperating at the time, at the moment. But basically, through this, there's no VPN that's required. There's no need to actually travel back to the office. You have access to all of those resources, all of those files that are sitting inside of your data center, as well as all of your printers, from that mobile device, quickly and easily. I want to also point out this article that is on our website talking about Novell's iLogin, which is in fact our intranet, and there's one paragraph further down, and there's the URL, which I think will make Amy will make this presentation available to you afterwards, and you can read the whole thing. But simply, this dates back. If you notice the date up here, it's 2002. Our CIO at the time coined a phrase of work is an activity, not a place. So no matter where you are, you don't actually need to go back into the office. You don't actually need to, teleport to the office. As long as you have those resources that are with you, that you need with you at the time, and that is basically a data connection of some sort, either a Wi-Fi or a cellular data connection. You can get your work done, and this is a philosophy that we've had, like I said, since 2002. And that has permeated through our corporate culture and the applications that we develop. So we give you the ability to do your work anytime, anywhere, on any device. Now, since some of you might be existing customers, I have a kind of an update for you there, specifically Filr, if we start there. So we do have, like I said, a new version of Filr that's coming out this fall. We have some sharing improvements. So now, instead of sharing a file or a folder, you can also share a link to that file with someone. And once you share that link, that person that you're sharing it with, if they happen to be an external user, they don't actually need to log in and create an account. Again, if you have Filr today and you've done this, you've probably realized that it can be a little tricky, especially if somebody has a spam blocker or something and those messages get caught in the spam filter. There is a little bit of back and forth that is required to actually validate the identity of the person that you're sharing with, and that all goes away if you're just sharing a simple file. You can share a link. We've got drag and drop capabilities, so there's no need anymore to click on the add files. If your Filr is open inside of your browser, you can just drag and drop a file and it will automatically go into the file upload state and upload those files. So there's no need for loading the Java applet if you're on Internet Explorer or clicking the button in the first place. You just drag and drop a file and you're done. Downloading files is also easier. You can simply tag all your files and you can download them as a single zip or folders for that matter. So you don't have to download them individually. To get to the edit features, simply right off the main screen. You don't have to go to view details and then click on edit. You can just click on the download arrow or the down arrow next to the file name and click on edit. We've also improved public files so that they don't just clutter up all your Filr website if somebody goes to continue on as guest. That's been dramatically improved. We also have new default actions. So when you're looking at the file list inside of your browser and you click on that file, the default action is to download it. But you can convert or you can modify that so that your default action is in fact to view those files using the built-in HTML viewer, the Stellan viewer. So it will convert that document HTML and render it inside of your browser. If you're sitting in a kiosk or something like that and you don't want to download it or can't download it, that is a better way to access that. We've got the Windows Phone mobile app that's coming out in this release, as well as the desktop app has been updated to support all of these new capabilities, such as sharing a link. We've got improved performance on the downloading and synchronization and so on. On the back end, we now support Microsoft SQL Server in addition to the MySQL. Things like the multiple network cards if you're trying to serve multiple subnets or whatever the case may be, if you're using one for monitoring or one for management, whatever the case may be, we support multiple network cards now. We also have the ability to support an additional disk. Again, for those of you who have Filr and have installed it before, you do need to add at least one disk, the VA storage volume, but now you can also create a disk for var, and all of the logs and everything will go there, so they won't consume disk space on the primary disk. So because that is bad when your database runs out of space or something. I'll talk about, I think, I have that in a second slide. I'll talk about that some more in a second. There is also a silent install, so if you've got multiple filers that you want to deploy, you can script the deployment and it will install and configure automatically based on the script, as well as a new version of MySQL is supported. So as I mentioned, there's been performance enhancements, and this is greater than 10. I can't remember the exact numbers, but there have been dramatic improvements in the synchronization as well as the indexing. You can now dedicate an appliance just for synchronization. You can create or disable the web browser. That was something that was always enabled by default. You can now turn it off. You can whitelist or blacklist people that you share with. So if there are some business partners and that's a legit share, you can whitelist those that domain, but you can also blacklist your competitors so that your employees can't share with them whatever intellectual property you might have. There's some additional restrictions that you can put onto people for sharing. And again, we now have the link sharing, so you can turn off and on those features individually, as well as I mentioned, expanding the storage. So if you do have your log file on the same disk as your VA storage, and your log file grows and consumes too much space, or just your database grows and you run out of space, there's now a quick one-button expand disk feature in the admin console that will expand the disk and allow you to continue working without needing to kind of do extensive hacking or rebuilding because you've run out of space. We've added DFS support for OES in this release, as well as expanded the support on Windows as well. So previously we didn't support DFS replication on Windows, so we've made some improvements there. And then we also have the administrator has control over the trash and can empty everyone's trash. Today, or in Filr 1.0, the trash also consumed personal quota. So if you deleted everything and thought that would free up your disk space and relieve the quota restrictions that were upon you, until you actually emptied the trash, you were still effectively out of disk or out of quota because that counted towards your personal allocation. All right, so all of those enhancements, like I said, they're coming out in Filr 1.1 this fall, and actually, I meant to include the link. We do have a tech preview running for Filr 1.1. I will put my email address back up if you want to participate in the tech preview and get your hands on this. You are free to do so, and all you do is like the Filr 1.0 tech preview. You fill out a form. Basically, we need your contact information as well as your Novell login ID, and then we can provision you with access to the Filr download so that you can try 1.1. It is beta, so we do not recommend that you put it into production, but that tech preview is available to customers today. And then in the first half of 2015, we're working on Filr 1.2. We do have a couple of ideas in mind already in terms of what will be in that release, but obviously as we wrap up 1.1, we'll have more time to put towards defining the exact specifications and the exact release and so on of the 1.2 release. And then for iPrint, as I mentioned, we have just released iPrint 1.1 about 2.5–3 weeks ago. Some of the features that you'll see here, we do have a simplified install, so you can script it. There's also less questions that it asks you, and the order of those questions is a little bit different, so that you can, in fact, bypass some of those things and get there quicker. We have improved the rendering. So in version 1.0, we used LibreOffice to convert documents if you were doing it on the appliance. And then if you weren't doing it on the appliance, we required a Windows workstation that had Microsoft Office or Adobe Acrobat Professional. So the Adobe Acrobat Professional was a bit of a challenge because it required a license for every user. And then the LibreOffice also, as I'm sure you can, maybe you're familiar with, did not such a great job of converting those documents. So we have improved we've licensed some PDF technology from a company to do the PDF conversion so that you don't actually need Adobe Acrobat Professional anymore. And we've changed out the LibreOffice with some on-the-appliance viewing capability, and we have about 700 different file types that we can view and render properly on the appliance without actually needing an external renderer. We also support multiple drivers now for the renders, so that renders, if you only have one render, it can support both your PostScript as well as your PCL printers, so we've made some improvements there. The QR codes, which I showed you, you now have the ability to rename your printers as well as bulk import your printers. So if you have a CSV file, you can simply import those printers automatically and don't need to go through all those steps and create them manually. We have worked with Mobile Iron as well as Samsung Knox to integrate into their applications and their management framework. The Windows mobile app is out. As well, one of the new features we've included is per printer licensing. So previously it was on a per user basis, and obviously if you're implementing a solution like iPrint, you're trying to get your printer management under control, and if you are doing a good job of doing that, then you're actually trying to reduce your printers, and this gives you the ability to potentially reduce the cost associated to managing your print environment. All right, so we just passed this release. So again, that was about 3 weeks ago, and then we're looking for an update in the first half of 2015. There are a number of things that are listed here, and those again are we just surpassed that and this release, and we're just finalizing this list right now. But these are the things that we're looking at in terms of that 1.2 release in the first half. If you need any more information on these mobility solutions, Filr and iPrint, you can just go to novell.com/mobility, and you'll see a website there that is dedicated to these solutions, and you can get more information. So that's what I've got, and let me see if I can bring the console here. I don't know, Amy, is there any questions?
Yes, I have seen a few questions come through, and just a reminder to everyone, if you do have any questions, you can put those through on either the chat or the Q&A. And it looks like the first question, what is the difference between Filr and iFolder?
Okay, so with Filr, as I mentioned, the My Files area is your personal home directory. That's your F drive, G drive, A drive, whatever the case may be. With iFolder, all of the files that were in iFolder always went into a proprietary directory on the server. And so it did not give you your home directory. It did not give you your network shares. It was just this other thing. So with Filr, what we've done there, like I said, is integrated not only your home directory, but also your map drives into that solution. All right, and has the issue been fixed when you update iPrint? Will it save the printer maps? So if I understand that question correctly, is you do need to save out your printer maps, back them up, and then restore them. iPrint, when you those files are stored on the appliance itself. And when you update the appliance, those maps do not come across. So yeah, that is something that has to be done, like I said, manually. In Filr, how can you get the full path to a file? I.e., many times in Excel you have a reference to another file. So I think this refers to kind of a spreadsheet that is pulling data from another spreadsheet, if I understand that correctly. And that one, we can't actually do that. We don't solve that problem. When you're running that spreadsheet, on the network, then it's pulling that other data from like F:" something. If you're synchronizing that to your local computer, then suddenly that path changes to C:/ your home directory, or maybe your home directory, your My Documents or your Filr directory rather is on your D drive or something like that. So unfortunately, we don't actually solve that problem. That will, unless you're putting them onto the network share, the map drive on the network, we can't actually solve that problem. So if I understood that correctly, yeah, sorry, we don't have an answer for that one. And if someone leaves the company, does Filr have a way to remove any files that the user may have downloaded to a PC? So the PC is not, we don't have an answer for that one just yet. Or actually, So in 1.1, when you go into the administrative console, you can now see all the devices that a user has, and you can disable access on to certain devices. So if they are lost or something like that, you can block that. I haven't checked, and I don't think that the desktop apps show up in there. I think it's just the mobile apps like your iPhones and your iPads and your Android devices and so on. So I'll have to check on that. And Amy, if I can get Pete's address, then email address, or Pete, if you want to send me an email, I'll be happy to answer that. And then let me just go back here. I'll also put up my address. So Pete, if you want to send me an email, I can also check that for you. But I'm not entirely sure that we do it on the PC, but like I said, I will verify that.